for her involvement and casual. So, so let's welcome our speaker for today's session. She is none other than Miss Aditi Upadhyay, ma'am. The floor is all yours, ma'am.
Ma'am, mute song.
Hi, can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Hi, Robina. Good afternoon. Good afternoon to everybody that's here. And thank you for the lovely introduction. Thank you for the lovely introduction. Also, please, can I request you, please don't call me ma'am. I'm just a recent graduate, so I'll get the awkward paniyun. So I know just you can just call me Aditi. Hi, all of you, everyone that's present here, so that it's more comfortable, right, for everyone. Okay, so thank you everyone. Thank you to Rotaract Club and all of the organizers for inviting me here. It's an honor, it's a privilege to be here, and to be here to talk about something like communication. That is something that I have been passionate about, that I love, a sector that I love working in. It's lovely to be here. So thank you everyone. So does that mean, without further ado, I begin with the presentation? Do I have the permission? Can I start? Yes, okay. Just give me 1 second. I will present. Okay, so can you guys see my presentation? Can you see the slides?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, okay. So I will begin the presentation now. So, hello everyone. Good afternoon again, and welcome to this session on effective communication. So, before that, let us start with an activity, okay? Just so that it's not very boring, and it's a little interactive. So we'll start with this. We'll start with an activity called Pass the Mic. So what I am going to do is I will randomly pick somebody from the audience here. I think there's 42 of us here. So I'll just pick one person, and you just tell me in one sentence, or just a few words, what you believe effective communication is. Okay, you don't have to hesitate. There is no right answer to this. It's just our own understanding. So there's no need to feel hesitant towards doing this. So I'll just pick one person from the audience, and then what we'll do is, after you tell us what you think effective communication is, you pick one other person. You're the one that will be picking the person that goes next to you. Okay, so it can be anyone. Be attentive. Anybody can pick anybody. There's no restrictions, no rules. Basically, just tell me what you think effective communication is in one sentence, and then choose one person from the audience. It doesn't have to be someone you know. It just can be a random anybody. Okay, so I am picking. I see that people are starting to leave the meeting, but still, I pick. I pick Priyanka Bhatta.
Hi, good evening.
Hi, good evening, Priyanka.
So I think that communicating effectively means that your ideas and concepts are being heard and people are acting upon them.
Okay, perfect. So Priyanka, can you pick one other person to go after you?
Okay, let me
Just
choose.
any name. Yeah, okay.
Okay, I want to go with Shweta Pradhan.
Okay. Hi, Shweta. Are you here? In case there's a problem with the mic, or if you're comfortable with sharing your video, please do that. And in case there's a problem with the mic, then you can type in your answers, okay, in the chat box. So Shweta, what do you want to do? Do you want to unmute and speak? I saw that you unmuted. Yeah, okay. Hi, good evening.
Good evening, ma'am. I think communication is gathering together and sharing ideas with each other.
Okay, perfect. So one other person. Can you choose anybody from the audience that you want to hear from?
Okay, from Ilagaki.
Okay.
Hello everyone.
Hi, Pramila.
Hello. Effective communication is simply the ability to convey information to another effectively and efficiently. Thank you.
Okay, good answer. Pramila, you also need to pick one other person.
I'll just come on. See.
मेरो कन्सेप्टमा चाहिँ मैले नेपालीमै भने
Yes, yes.
इफेक्टिभ कम्युनिकेसन भनेको चाहिँ आफ्नो आइडियाज अनि आफ्नो थट्स सेयर गर्ने हो, खास गरी नट जस्ट आफूले भन्ने मात्र होइन, एक्टिभली लिसनिङ पनि चाहिँ इफेक्टिभ कम्युनिकेसनमा पर्छ भन्ने चाहिँ मलाई लाग्छ। थ्याङ्क यू।
Okay, thank you. Good answer. Okay, one or two other people. Okay, so Aljesh, I think is that how you pronounce it? Aljesh, oh?
खास गरी एलजेस हो, बट
Aljesh. Okay.
हुन्छ।
Okay, so can you pick one other person? Somebody who has not gone yet, who has not spoken yet?
I would like to pick Manish Pandey ji.
Okay. Manish Pandey, are you here?
Hello, good evening, everyone.
Hi, good evening.
So, according to me, effective communication भनेको चाहिँ two-way communication, a perfect two-way communication where listening is as important as speaking.
Okay.
I think that's my definition. Thank you.
Very good answer. Very good answer. Okay, so next, I think we'll go with one other person and then I'll begin. Okay, so Manish, just pick someone. Give me a name.
Munsan Pandey.
Okay.
Okay, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Hi.
हेलो के मलाई चाहिँ अब कम्युनिकेसन भन्दाखेरि अब आफूले भन्नेहरु त हुन्छ हैन, तर मेन पार्ट चाहिँ लिसनिङ नै लाग्छ। लिसनिङ चाहिँ कस्तो भन्दाखेरि जस्ट नट टु रियाक्ट मात्र के, सुन्ने बित्तिकै अनि आफूले पर्सपेक्टिभ लिएर बोलिहाल्ने हैन, जस्ट टु लिसन के। थ्यांक यू।
Yes. Okay. So thank you, everyone. Those were really very good answers. Simple, concise answers, and all of them were correct. All of them were correct to their own extents. Okay. So now I will move on to my part of the presentation, and so we're done with this activity. Now, what we need to start with when we are talking about communication, when we're talking about effective communication, firstly, we need to understand what communication itself is, okay? So let's start with the definition of communication. So Oxford Dictionary defines communication as the activity or the process of expressing ideas and feelings, or the activity or process of giving people some sort of information. So I think that's pretty clear, right? The activity or process of expressing ideas and feelings or giving people information. And the Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines communication as the process by which information is exchanged between individuals. And this is done through a common system. It has to be done through a common system so that it is understood by all parties. And this system can be of symbols, it can be of signs, or of certain kind of behavior. So the Merriam-Webster Dictionary's definition is also pretty clear. It's a process by which information is exchanged between individuals. So basically, communication is the exchange of information through a common system. We mostly use language when it comes to communication. Verbal communication is the most common form of communication. And what do we use in verbal communication? We use words. We use words that come from certain languages so that people can understand, okay? So what I'm going to say is, I know there's a lot of theories and there's a lot of things that go into understanding what communication is, but I just want to tell everybody here that I am mostly going to focus on the practical aspect of communication, since this session itself is about effective communication, okay? So communication there's a lot of theories that can go into it. There's a lot of people that can talk about what the history of communication is and all of that, but I'm not going to go into any of that. What I will just do is go into the practical aspect of communication. Okay, what are the forms of communication and what exactly makes communication effective? So that's what I'm going to focus on. I just wanted to make that clear. So moving on, since we defined communication, now let's define effective. Okay, so what does effective mean? What exactly does the word effective mean? So the word effective, it comes from effect, right? So effect means it doesn't necessarily mean the same as impact, but it can be considered, these two words can be considered to have similar meanings. So if we understand cause and effect, then cause and effect, that means a result of something, right? Effect means a result of something. So effect, impact, whatever that is, we now understand what effect means. So what is effective? So simply defining effective, it means that effective means it produces the action that we're undertaking, whatever we're doing, it produces the result, the exact result that we want or intend to produce. Okay, so that's effective. So it basically means producing a successful result. And the same thing, producing a desired, decisive, or decided, decisive, or desired effect of a certain something that we're doing. The effect of it coming true means that it produces a decisive or desired effect. The same thing as meeting a certain objective. Whenever we do something, we do a certain activity, we do it with a certain objective, right? So if the objective is met through the activity, that activity is effective. That's just basic but clear understanding of effective. So just wanted to define that. So now let's move on to effective communication. So what exactly does effective communication mean? So a lot of you told me what you think effective communication is. And as I said, a lot of you have it right, have understood it correctly. So when it comes to effective communication, whenever you are relaying a message, whenever you are communicating something, whenever you're telling somebody something or expressing something in not just in words, but in other forms also. So how do you know if your communication, how do you know if what you have said or relayed is effective? So one of the indicators of effective communication is when all the parties in the communication, that means if I'm talking to you, right? If I'm talking to you, then I am the sender of the message and you are the receiver of the message. If I am telling you something, I'm the sender and you're the receiver. So that's how we'll refer to these parties. Okay, so when I say when all the parties, it means the sender and the receiver. Okay, because there's always, when it comes to communication, it always happens between two or more parties. So when I'm saying something, I'm saying it with a message in mind. I'm saying it expressing a certain kind of thing that I have in my mind, right? Now, if I'm talking to you, if I'm telling you this, and you understand exactly the same thing that I'm telling you, when your brain assigns the same or similar meanings to the message that I relay to you, then that means the communication is effective. Remember, we talked about what effective means. It produces the desired result. So when I'm talking to you, my desired result is to make you understand. So if you assign a similar meaning in your brain to what I have said to you, that means the communication is mostly effective. So one of the other indicators of effective communication is, yes, most of you said this when you talked to me about communication, is about listening carefully. It's about listening carefully to what everything that has been said. And it is also about making the sender of the message. So like I said, I'm talking to you guys, right? So I'm the sender. Now, if this communication is to be effective, then it is about you making me feel heard and making me feel understood, making my messages feel understood. So listening carefully to what has been said and making the sender, the party that is relaying the communication, feel heard and understood. Okay, and the other part is basically a combination of both. It's being able to both actively listen. Okay, so you cannot be a good communicator if you're not a good listener. So you have to actively listen and you have to be able to clearly express yourself to those around you. If you're able to do these two basic and simple things, you become an effective communicator. Okay. So why exactly? So communication is something that everybody does. Everybody, it's something that we all have in our lives, we all need in our lives. We definitely cannot do without communication, right? We live in an increasingly interdependent world, so our communication has to keep increasing, and keep developing with time. So what exactly makes communication effective, we just talked about. But why is effective communication important? Why is just communication not enough? Okay, since we now defined effective communication, we can go into why it is important. So what does effective communication do? An effective form of communication will allow you to clearly translate your intentions. Translate your intentions means whatever you're intending to convey to somebody, and or if you're the receiver, then whatever you're intending to understand, whatever you're intending to know about, then it means that that is easily translated into your intentions, into whatever you're doing, into your actions. So if it's about listening, then it's about you listening actively and understanding what the other person is saying. And if it's about talking to somebody, if it's about you talking to somebody and conveying a message, then it's about you being able to express that in convenient and easy way, in a convenient and easy way, so that people are able to understand your message exactly, right? So that's how it allows. That's what effective communication does. Now, effective communication also increases productivity and efficiency. How? It's because it saves the time that a lot of workplaces and a lot of people have to spend on resolving conflict that arises from miscommunication. And even though this sounds like something, it might sound like something that happens very rarely, I doubt that is true, because in a workplace setting, a lot of conflicts arise from the inability of somebody to either listen actively, or the inability of somebody to concisely and clearly express whatever they have to communicate. So if you're able to do that in one shot, if you're an effective communicator, then you're able to do it in one shot, right? It saves a lot of time. And it also, within a short span of time, you're also able to get a lot done. So that means your productivity increases, and so does your efficiency. You're able to do a lot in a short span of time. As I explained, it minimizes conflict and the unintended consequences that come from conflict that arise from miscommunication, right? And effective communication helps you better understand what others are saying. This is a part of active listening, right? So what does this do? Whenever you listen actively, you're able to better understand. If you're listening to somebody who is clearly expressing what they're saying, then you're able, if it's from your side, if it's active listening from your side and clear expression from the other side, that means you're able to better understand what they're saying. And all of this combined, it makes you a better collaborator. It makes you a better team member. How? Because you're able to understand, you're able to resolve conflict, you're able to minimize conflict, you're also able to express your feelings clearly, you're able to, there's a lot of features that come that I'll go on to explain. So it basically, the most important thing that comes out of being an effective communicator, especially in a workplace or professional setting, it makes you a better collaborator and a better team member. And if we were not talking about a professional setting, if we're also talking about effective communication when it comes to personal relationships or personal spheres, then again this rings true for that as well. Because you're able to, again, even there, you're able to listen. You're able, if you're talking to somebody, if you're talking to somebody in your family, and there's some sort of conflict that has arisen, then what can you do? If you listen carefully, if you're willing to understand what they're saying, if you're able to analyze that, whatever they're telling you, and then express your feelings clearly, concisely, your feelings or your ideas, then it also makes you a better person overall, right? It makes you a better person because you're able to maintain those relationships. So it rings true for all professional and personal spheres. Now, let's move on. We've been talking about communication. So let's move on to the types of communication. Okay, so the most commonly accepted types of communication are mostly verbal communication, non-verbal communication, written communication, and visual communication. Okay, so these are the four most common forms. However, I've added here listening. Why? Because as I think somebody who explained, who told a few of you, who told me what you think effective communication is, included this, and I think that is a very valid point that you have caught. So listening. Okay, so listening is a part of all other forms of communication to some extent. Active listening. And so no form of communication is very active, is very effective, especially without active listening. Okay, so first I'm going to explain what and how you actively listen. So of course we all know what listening is. Listening itself is an active thing because there's another term for it, that if it's not active, then it's hearing. Okay, so listening and hearing, there's difference between these two terms. Hearing means you're not intending to listen, you're not making an effort to listen to something, to get something into your ears, basically, right? Since we listen through our ears or hear through our ears, same thing. So there's no effort that is going into hearing. So that's passive hearing. Now, when you listen, it means that there's effort that's going into listening. There's efforts that's going into you trying to understand what somebody is saying or doing, right? So that is active listening. So how exactly, when it comes to communication, how exactly do we listen actively? Because sometimes we may feel like we're listening to people. We may feel like they think we're listening to them. However, that may not be the case. Okay, so how do you listen actively? Firstly, whenever somebody is speaking, it is important that when somebody is speaking, this also comes into verbal communication, but I included this here because it's also a part of listening. So whenever I'm speaking, if I speak in a neutral and non-judgmental tone, then I am going to have active listeners. Okay, because if I am not neutral, if I am biased towards something, and if I'm judging somebody when I'm talking, if I'm expressing ideas that are judgmental, then that means I do not have the full and neutral attention of my listener. So that means somebody who's talking to you needs to have a neutral and non-judgmental tone. Now, let's leave aside non-judgmental tone for a while and then talk about this neutral thing. So whenever we're listening, it is important to be neutral. It is important to be open to what they are telling us. That is how we listen actively, and that is how we understand what they're saying. Okay, it might get a little bit confusing. Active listening, like since neutral and non-judgmental tone are both part of active listening as well as verbal communication, but I just included this here. So because it's important for both sides, because I believe it's important for both sides. I'll go on to explain this a little later. Okay, and active listening also involves being very patient. It involves being patient to listening to people, being patient to understanding, taking the time to actually make that effort into listening, to concentrate, right? So if you react whenever you're listening, if you react way too soon to what somebody is saying, that means you're not patient. That means you're impatient, and that is going to create problems later. Okay, so and whenever we're talking about listening, active listening, it is also important to talk about feedback. That is verbal, both verbal and non-verbal. Now, feedback here doesn't exactly mean suggestions. Okay, feedback here, suggestions or advice that you give somebody at the end of whatever they've done, whatever they've shared with you. It also means how the two parties interact. Okay, so when you're listening, if you smile, if you maintain eye contact, if you lean in when somebody is talking about something, it shows that you have interest in what they're saying. Okay, so this is called verbal. When it comes to listening, we mostly go to non-verbal feedback. Verbal feedback does come, but it's not exactly entirely a part of active listening. So pay attention to non-verbal feedback and try to smile when somebody is talking to you. Try to maintain eye contact. Try to lean in so that you show that they have your interest in whatever they're telling you. Okay, now next part is asking questions. If you don't ask questions, if you completely don't ask any questions, then it can mean that you have not understood what they're saying. Okay, while this might be counterintuitive, while this might be confusing to an extent, asking questions basically relays the message that you're genuinely interested in what they're telling you. So if you don't understand, because we're all humans, right? Sometimes we fail to listen properly, especially when it comes to online sessions like this. What happens is our connections are not reliable. So what happens? We're listening to them, but we miss some sort of information. Sometimes they're not very clear in what they're telling us, whatever the person is saying in what they're telling us. So just asking questions will also make you, firstly, it will make you more attentive, right? Because you're asking a question because you want an answer to it. Second thing it does is it gains the confidence of the sender of that message, that okay, this person is listening to me, this person is actively listening to me and genuinely wants to know what I'm telling them. So that's part of active listening, and that's something that's very, very, very important, asking questions. Now, if after you listen actively, then you need to reflect back on what has been said so that you're able to process it properly, right? Because when somebody gives you some sort of information, then again, it may be interpreted in different ways by different people, and that's okay. But then you need to reflect on what is said so as to help the sender of the message understand and meet their own objectives. Okay, so reflecting back and summarizing basically in your mind on everything that has been said and associating that with the objective of the communication for whatever reason that is, that means you have listened actively in your mind. And if somebody asks you what you if there comes an opportunity or a chance where you have to speak about what the session was, if somebody asks you to summarize, then active listening helps you there as well, because you've reflected on what they've told you, right? And you've also asked questions, you've provided non-verbal feedback, you've been patient, you have a neutral and non-judgmental tone when you're doing this. And then in case you don't understand something, you've asked for clarification. So that means you're an active listener and you've understood the message clearly. So that helps meet the objective, right? The objective that we talked about. It produces the same result that somebody wanted you to it produces the same result. That means you understood the same thing that somebody wanted you to understand. So that is why active listening is very, very, very important. So now we move on to the other forms of communication. So verbal communication. What exactly is verbal communication and how do we do it? How do we communicate effectively in verbal forms, okay, in verbal terms? So communication is the kind of, so verbal communication is the kind of communication that involves the use of words. The use of words, that's pretty self-explanatory. I don't think I need to explain that, right? Okay, so how do you effectively communicate with the use of words? First thing is that you use a confident and strong voice. A voice with a strong command over whatever you're saying means that you are able to clearly and concisely and strongly assert whatever you're saying. Okay, so if you're not confident, then I'm sure you guys have noticed, if somebody's not confident, what happens? Their voice becomes very it's not loud. It's a very small voice, and that can make things less clear. That can make whatever you're telling other people and whatever they're hearing much less clear. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is build that confidence and use a very strong voice. Now, again, we've come into maintaining eye contact. So again, maintaining eye contact is a kind of indicator, is a signal that the person is very interested, that you are, so if you're communicating verbally with somebody, then you need to look them in the eye and then talk about what you're saying. Look them in the eye. I know this look them in the eye thing can be a little bit intimidating sometimes, But then if you smile, if there's there's also non-verbal forms of communication. We'll go into that later. If you're able to maintain eye contact and use a confident and strong voice, then that means you're able to also communicate the other forms of communication, the small things, the small details about that contribute to your verbal communication. It makes you an effective verbal communicator. Now, being loud doesn't really mean doesn't mean screaming. Okay, so it's important to be soft spoken and open-minded both. It's important to be soft-spoken because so as to not intimidate your listener, and open-minded just so that you're not judgmental, so that you're not biased, so that you're open to new ideas, you're open to new opinions, right? When somebody might, because verbal, again, communication is also the exchange. It's not doesn't just go one way. So if you communicating verbally effectively between people, it also means that you have to be open-minded to your differences also. You and them may not have the same ideas. So be soft-spoken and always be open-minded whenever you're communicating. Now, presenting your information shortly. So what has happened is a lot of us, and I think this is human nature, when it comes to repetition or the same information that is being repeated or that is expressed in a very, very long format, what does that do? It bores your listener, basically. It bores the other side. And you lose interest. You instantly lose interest. So you have to present that information in a very short form. Okay? And then we go into do not interrupt the speaker. So this is, again, also a part of active listening. But also when two of you are communicating, two people are communicating, or two or more are communicating, it doesn't mean that just one person is talking, right? There might be a discussion going on. But then even when there's a discussion going on, it is absolutely wrong, ethically, morally wrong, and it also creates a lot of conflict when you interrupt the speaker abruptly in whatever they're saying. Okay, so don't interrupt them. If you have something to say it at the end, or tell them that I want to say something, and then speak after they allow you to do it. So do not interrupt the speaker. Now try to avoid jargons. Now jargons means if I am a person in a field of communication, if I am a professional in a field of communication, then there are certain terms that people who are a part of the same sector will understand, but the people who are out of that sector will not understand. Okay, so if I am working within, I'm a development studies graduate. So if I'm working within the development sector, then there are certain phrases or certain terms that only my colleague from the same sector will understand. It might be difficult for you to understand the same thing, the phrase. So that means you have to try to avoid those terms. Just the basic thing about this is to be aware. Okay, so what kind of terms am I using when I'm saying something? Am I being simple? Am I being concise? Am I talking in ways that anybody can understand? Am I using words that anybody can understand? So it's just about a mental awareness. So whenever that click goes off, okay, this might be difficult for somebody to understand. In case you use that jargon, you have to explain it also. So try to avoid it, but in case you do it, then also try to explain it. So that shows that you care that whatever you're sharing is being understood. Okay, so active listening is always important. I don't need to explain that anymore. Now develop a filter. So what exactly does develop a filter mean? Is sometimes when we're expressing our ideas, when we're expressing our opinions, what we do is, yes, it's important to be honest, but it's important to not be too honest all the time. Okay? Now, you'll understand this as you go, especially when it comes to professional settings. There are some things that if you're asked a certain question, then don't go into explaining the whole background of your answer, okay? Be concise, be specific. Sometimes you overshare. Whenever we're too honest, we overshare the information, and that kind of information is not required. Sometimes it produces an opposite result of what we intend, of what we want. So developing a filter is something that happens with time. I cannot tell you exactly how to develop a filter, except just be mindful of what you're saying. Be mindful of what you're saying, and this is associated to being concise and short about what you're saying. Okay, so avoiding repetitions is also part of this. Avoiding repetitions and being honest is a part of this, but also be honest. Don't lie. Definitely don't lie. Don't say something that is not true, but also make sure that you're speaking only what is necessary. Now again, I cannot tell you exactly how to do this. यो भनेको एकदम एक्सपिरियन्सले सिकाउने कुरा हो, फिल्टर डेभलप गर्नु भनेको. तर बेसिकली इट्स अबाउट just talking what is required. के जे चाहिन्छ त्यो मात्रै बोल्ने भन्ने खालको के यो डेभलप फिल्टर भनेको चाहिँ. Okay, so that's verbal communication. Now let's go on to non-verbal communication. We already talked a little bit about non-verbal communication here because maintaining eye contact and all of that is also part of non-verbal communication. Now, when we go to non-verbal communication, it means the non-verbal cues, the non-verbal signals that don't exactly involve words, but they do relay a message. Okay, they do have some kind of meaning when it comes to that communication. So non-verbal communication is the transmission of messages or signals through a non-verbal platform, and that involves eye contact, that involves facial expressions, gestures, posture, and the distance between two individuals. All of these have certain kind of meanings attached to them when it comes to communication. So whenever you're talking to somebody, or when you're listening, or when you're communicating basically with one person, with a group, be conscious of your body language. Don't seem completely lazy. You know what body language is, right? I don't have to explain that, but just be active. Okay, just if like we talked about leaning in when somebody's talking, right? That means your body language is showing them that you're interested, that you're interested in understanding what they're telling you. Okay, and even when you're speaking, try and move a little bit so that you're active, so that you maintain your level of energy, so that people can get messages even from not just from your words, but also from your body language. How much energy you've put into it, how much effort you've put into it is reflected. This is a little bit, it's natural, but it's also important to be conscious of what kind of body language you show. Now, again, be aware of your emotions and your reactions. Whenever you're talking, whenever you're communicating, if you react too soon, again, that means you're not being a good listener. You're not actively listening. You're not listening to understand. You don't have an open mind. Now, of course, we all have emotions, and all of those emotions, feelings, they're fleeting. We cannot always control them, but we can control how we respond to them. We can control how we react to them whenever we're communicating with somebody. Okay, so it's important to just have that awareness in our mind whenever we're communicating with somebody. So be aware of your emotions, and then you can control your reactions. Okay, so that it makes you an active listener and an effective communicator in all other forms. Now, the same thing. Pay attention to others' non-verbal cues. Non-verbal cues are the non-verbal things, like I said, eye contact, facial expressions, gestures, the distance between two individuals. These are non-verbal cues. While it's important to pay attention to this when you are communicating, it's also important to pay attention to what others have been doing in the same regard. Okay, what their cues are. Now, if somebody looks extremely lazy, or bored when you're communicating with them, it might mean that you need to make your session. It means that you might need to make whatever you're saying a little bit more interesting to capture their interest. Maybe you need to ask them a certain question. Maybe you need to talk to them. Change the slide. Okay, so that means you also need to pay attention to what the non-verbal aspects of communication are when it comes to others and not just yourself. Because being conscious and being aware is there, but also paying attention to the same thing in the other parties, for the other parties when it comes to communication. Now, written communication. I think this is a very, very, very important part of communication in a professional setting. Now, what exactly is written communication? We all know that any form of communication that happens in a written form. So if you're sending messages, if you're sending an order or an instruction through letters in writing, right? Through letters, manuals, office memos, bulletins, all of these. Anything that is expressed in written forms in a professional setting mostly is written communication that is required in the workplace. Okay, in the workplace, or even if it's not workplace, whenever you're communicating, even it applies even to personal communication. Okay, but then I'll be focusing on the professional aspect of it. Now, there are certain things that you need to pay attention to when it comes to written communication, and I think emails are a very important part of that. Now, whenever you're writing something, whenever you're expressing some form of idea through writing, it is important for you to know your audience. Mostly, it's important to use simple language, especially because so that anybody can understand, right? So that if you use very complex language in for somebody who doesn't really use the same language, for example, doesn't use the same language a lot, somebody who's just learning English, or if you're talking in English, right, somebody who's just learning English, then you need to be very, very, very simple with your words and your language. Now, again, when it comes to a more professional or a more advanced level of communication or profession, then it might also be important to sometimes use a little more, not exactly completely complex, but a more formal kind of language when it comes to communication. So it's important to know who you're talking to know who you are writing to. Okay, so knowing that will make you write to them in a way that they can understand. Now, I talked about being simple, clear, and concise with your ideas. Don't avoid repetitions. Don't be too long with whatever you're writing. Just write. Mostly, if you're emailing, then emailing or writing through letters, circulars, then especially if it's instructions, just be simple, be clear, and be concise. You have to follow proper etiquette when you write emails. Now, there's a whole different session can go into, a proper email etiquette, but there's basics. I'll tell you what the basics are. First thing is always use a professional sounding email. Now, we all have made the mistake of using, the usernames when it comes to our email ID usernames, that the part that comes before the @gmail.com or hotmail.com, whatever. Before that, my name is Aditi, right? So aditiupadhyay@gmail.com. That sounds okay. Now, there was a time when everybody's email address would be some sort of cool sounding email address. Okay? Coolboy123 at gmail.com. And those things definitely will, what those things will do. First, effect impression नै बिगाडिदिन्छ के to the receiver. So, okay, this is not a very professional thing. सुरुमै लाग्छ, okay, that means this is not a very professional person. You may not be taken seriously because of that. Okay, so when it comes to emails, just always first thing to be aware of, and to change if you haven't done that or anything. I'm pretty sure all of you have used professional email handles by now, but still, just a basic thing: use a proper and professional sounding email address that involves your name. Like even short forms of your name is fine if it's too long, but then mostly use your name so that it's easier for people to find it. And also sometimes the names are already used, they're too common, then you can use numbers, symbols, but limit it to that mostly. Okay, especially in your personal emails. And then organization ko emails ma ta kaile kai the organization ko name can come agadipatti or whatever that is. You get what I'm saying. Tara, be careful of what your email handle is. Be mindful of it. Now, when you're sending an email, make sure the subject line conveys the message of what the email body is trying to say. Okay, at least that it's a summary, a short and concise summary of the body of that email. Don't leave the subject line blank, especially in professional emails. Never do that, because again, that means you're not taking enough effort, you're not professional enough when it comes to writing emails. So using meaningful subject lines is important. Now, especially when it comes to writing, a lot of us, not a lot of us, all of us, we all make mistakes when we're typing, right? We type fast, we write a lot of things in a sentence or so. But then it's important to take a step back after you've done all the writing and then review what you've written, okay? So that you can do that in terms of grammar, in terms of punctuation, so that it's correct and also that it's clear. Now, proper grammar also again means that using proper grammar again means that you have your it means that you're professional, basically, okay? Using proper grammar means that you're expressing in a way. And then using proper punctuation, I can go into the importance of grammar and punctuation later. But you get what I'm saying, right? Just using proper grammar and punctuation creates the impression that you're a professional who uses all the standard things, that who finds it important to do that. Now, learn the basics. There's again emailing ma ta arko euta session नै jana सक्छ, तर learning the basics also means these basic things, एक दुईटा कुराहरु, and then the signature line भन्ने कुरा पनि आउँछ. So then the time is gone where you address emails starting with respected, okay, letters or emails. Respected bhanne term outdate bhaisakyo. Today you can use formal setting ma dear नै use garda huncha. Informal setting ma you can use hi, hello or anything, but then don't do that in professional settings, okay? So different kinds of professional ma kura garda dear use garda huncha. Even up to hello is fine, but try to avoid using hello pani, हैन? Ani when you sign it, tala professional emails ma don't use love, comma, I'm Aditi, right? Love, comma, Aditi, bhanda use nagaru. We should be saying best regards or sincerely, things like that, okay? So those are the basics of emailing. You say, again, मैले भने हाले different session नै हुन सक्छ, तर this kind of information is readily available in the internet आजकल पनि, हैन? So just learn that, okay? Make an effort to improve your written communication skills. यसले चाहिँ एकदमै धेरै फरक पार्छ, especially emails मा एकदमै धेरै फरक पार्छ. And then proper grammar and punctuation कुरा त मैले भनि पनि हाले. So now, visual communication. What exactly is visual communication? So visual communication bhaneko, it's the practice of graphically representing information. Now visual ma images, videos pani parcha. But then mostly visual communication generally means graphically representing your information. Just if there's if there's information that includes a lot of data, that includes a lot of statistics, then visualizing that information into tables or graphs or charts will make your information more, firstly, it'll make it more interesting. Okay, and then it creates more meaning. It creates more meaning because you have the interest of the reader, because the reader or the listener sees that you've put effort into making those graphs. It builds rapport, it builds understanding, and then it also provides a clear picture, a visual picture, because most of us, a lot of us are visual learners, right? Sometimes we find it extremely boring to read through a whole body of text, but then if the data in that text is represented in a table form or in a graphical form, then that means that the people will better understand, will have more interest, will have a clearer picture of the data that you're trying to show. So use visuals, but then make sure that they add meaning, they add value to whatever you're trying to say. Especially when it comes to sometimes ekdam descriptive text huncha, त्यस्तोमा ekdam graphs haru राख्न नमिल्ने पनि हुन सक्छ. So make sure that it meets the objective and that it adds value to whatever you're saying. Now, the use of images and videos can give a good break. Okay? Sometimes slides are when there's a lot of text, even text Microsoft Word document there's a lot of text, then a certain image or a video ta Microsoft Word ma ta nahora, tara slides ma, presentation ma, use images. Okay, use images and graphs as far as possible clearly, so that they give the reader a break from ekdamai textually heavy communication हुन्छ नि, textually heavy documented हुन्छ, त्यसमा image र videos use गर्यो भने better interest capture हुन्छ. That's what I said here, tends to capture greater interest from the receiver. Now, and what else does visual communication do? It makes the whole communication clearer and easy to understand. Okay, so that's what visual communication is. That's why it's important, and that's how you do it. All of these things are things that go experience ले नै सिक्ने कुराहरू हुन्छ यो बिस्तारै बिस्तारै better. तर again basically explaining कसरी गर्न सकिन्छ exactly भनेर. Obviously सबै ठाउँमा visual communication use गर्न मिल्दैन, सबै ठाउँमा graphs use गर्न मिल्दैन. तर again त्यसमा फेरि हुन्छ written communication, verbal communication को जुन अरू skillsहरू थियो त्यो पनि include हुन्छ के. So all of these communications, they're not completely mutually exclusive to each other. Okay? Your traits are being an effective communicator is not just about being somebody or being something in a professional setting. Right? Being an effective communicator is also about a state of mind where you're able to process and express effectively. Okay, listen, process, and express effectively. You say professional setting ma matre hune kura hoina, personal ma pani huncha. So it's about being aware. All of these sano detail huncha. Tara yo sabai kuraharu bhayo bhane chai by nature bhanda pani huncha ni, you yourself become a better communicator. Okay, it's not just about improving a certain set of skills, a certain thing about yourself. Okay, so the visual communication and all other forms of communication traits are very important. It's not just about it's also about a personality trait. Okay, communication bhaneko. Now, what exactly are the skills that make communication effective? हामीले यत्रो कुरा त गरिहाल्यौं communication को बारेमा हैन, तर what makes communication effective त? So first we talked about active listening. I don't have to explain this anymore. यो एकदमै important छुटाउन नहुने कुराहरुलाई मैले यसमा include गरे because धेरै कुराहरु त आइ पनि सक्यो हैन. So active listening भइहाल्यो. I told you what active listening is. Most of you already know. Most of you are probably already practicing it हैन. So active listening भयो. Now empathy. So what is empathy? Empathy is being open to, firstly, the empathy is about being open to understanding where somebody else comes from, okay? What their perspective is. Putting yourself in somebody else's shoes so that you're making an effort to understand what they're telling you. Now, दुईजनाको कहिलेकाहीँ conflict हुँदाखेरि या त difference in opinion हुँदाखेरि, conflict of interest हुँदाखेरि दुईजनाको कुरा हुन्छ. एउटा आउटसाइडरले सुन्दाखेरि दुवैजनाको कुरा राइट हुन्छ कि दुवैजनाको कुरा रङ कसैको पनि हुँदैन. तर the two people cannot come to an understanding. Now, why can they not come to an understanding? Is because they're not willing to put themselves in each other's shoes. Okay? उसको ठाउँमा बसेर मैले सोचे भने 90% of the time उसको कुरा मैले बुझ्ने chances high हुन्छ के. तर त्यो गर्नै खोजेन आफ्नो मात्रै कुरा. If you're trying to impose it, if you're trying to say it एकदमै के भन्छ एकदम impose गर्ने तरिकामा, then that means you're not being empathetic towards the person you're communicating with. So empathy is very important, and empathy is also about having the feeling of, okay, the other person is also human. The other person may also make mistakes, or the other person को consequences ले गर्दा the other person को background ले गर्दा यो consequences उसले face गर्नु परिरहेको होला भन्ने कुरा empathy भयो भने नै हामीले feel गर्छौं के. So just be empathetic. यो त basic human nature को quality हो हैन empathy भनेको, but then it also makes you a more effective communicator, okay? So because you can understand and you can also express better. अब empathy भयो भने we're both communicating, right? So तर मैले whoever is in front of me उसको ठाउँमा बसेर सोचेको छु भने मैले उसको ठाउँबाट पनि explain गरिदिन सक्छु के कुरालाई, and that makes them feel as if they are being understood, right? So that is how this contributes to effective communication. Basically, त्यही नै कुरा हो empathy भनेको त. It makes you a better person. All of that वाला कुराहरु छँदैछ. So it makes you a better and a more effective communicator. Now, non-verbal communication को कुरा. Verbal communication भइरहेको छ, तर body language ले interest छैन भन्ने देखाइरहेको छ. Eye contact maintain गरेको छैन भने what happens? it makes अघि नै भनिहालेँ नि, it makes the communicator feel like they are not they don't have the interest, they don't have your interest, or that they're boring you bhanera. So maintain eye contact, always maintain eye contact, be active, have a good posture, okay? Have a good posture when you're talking or when you're listening, both, हैन. अलिकति एक्टिभ देखिनुपर्छ, अलिकति एनर्जी छ भनेर देखाउन पनि सक्नुपर्छ. So that is how both sides-बाट एक ठाउँबाट सुन्ने मात्र कुरा छ भने पनि त्यो पनि अलिकति बेटर के भन्छ ट्रान्सलेट हुन सक्छ कि इन्टु मिटिङ द अब्जेक्टिभ्स अफ द्याट कम्युनिकेसन. नाउ टिमवर्क भयो भने नै दिस अगेन एसोसिएट्स इट्सेल्फ टु अ लट अफ अदर थिङ्स, तर कज एन्ड इफेक्ट दुइटै हो टिमवर्क भनेको. सो यदि टिमवर्क स्किल्स छ भने, टिमवर्क स्किल्स हुनु भनेकै it's basically about having an open mind and being open to everybody's opinions, everybody's perspectives. Communication को terms मा मात्र भनेको मैले हैन. So teamwork त्यो भयो भने effectively communicate गर्न पनि सकिन्छ र effective communication भयो भने टिम राम्रो बिल्ड हुन पनि सक्छ. Okay, so cause and effect दुइटै हो. अब these are things that जुन एउटा effective communicatorले छुटाउनै हुँदैन. Listen actively, have empathy, pay attention to non-verbal aspects of communication, whether you're a listener, speaker, or anything, whenever you're communicating with anybody in any form. And then be a good team player. अनि त्यो त अब effective communication पछि त्यो एउटा better team build त भइ नै हाल्छ if everybody becomes an effective communicator. Okay. So just a few more things. The do's and don'ts of effective communication मा जाम है. यसमा चाहिँ just अलिकति पहिला छुटेको कुराहरू छ भने यसमा मैले include गरिरहेको, just those that I could not include in the forms of communication only. Now, के हुन्छ भने sometimes whenever we're listening or whenever we're hearing listening basically to other people's ideas, and whenever we're talking, then हामी एकदमै नेगेटिभ टोन लिएर बोलिरहेको हुन पनि सक्छौँ र यसको बारेमा हामी अवेयर पनि हुँदैनौँ के अवेयर पनि हुँदैनौँ. सो अब नेगेटिभ थट्स भन्ने कुरा मोस्टली त नेगेटिभ थट्स आउनु त भएन हैन, तर इन केस आइहाल्यो भने पनि there is a way that you can communicate that and express that अलिकति न्यूट्रल ठाउँमा बसेर त्यसलाई त्यसको पोजिटिभ एस्पेक्टलाई नै हेर्ने हो भने पनि त्यसलाई अरूलाई नेगेटिभ जस्तो लाग्ने कुराहरू पनि पोजिटिभ वेमा भन्न सकिन्छ के. कन्स्ट्रक्टिभ फिडब्याक भन्छ नि. सो कन्स्ट्रक्टिभ फिडब्याक भनेको केही न केहीमा कुनै कुराको कमी महसुस भयो, जस्तै somebody is talking to me र मलाई कुनै कुरा त्यहाँ चित्त बुझेन हैन, चित्त बुझेन भने मैले के गर्नुपर्छ त भन्दा I don't react त्यति बेलै हैन, तर म दिमागमा राखिराख्छु कि ओके यो कुरा चाहिँ यसमा अलिकति पुगेन है भन्ने राखिराख्छु हैन. And then I express that in positive terms के. जस्तै if somebody is not being very clear or is reacting very much to what they're telling you, then के हुन सक्छ भने त्यो सेम आफ्नो साइडबाट पनि त्यसरी नै एक्सप्रेस भइदिन सक्छ के. तर if you can say I would appreciate it if you calm down and also listen to me भन्न सक्यो भने that is expressing your negative thoughts in a more positive way, right? So एउटा टोनको कुरा हो के यो भनेको चाहिँ, एउटा टोनको कुरा हो र एउटा वे अफ थिङ्किङको कुरा हो. Don't put labels into what people have done के. जस्तै कस्तो ठुलो स्वरमा बोल्नु भयो हजुर भनेर भन्नु भन्दा जसरी मैले भने नि I'd appreciate it if you also listened to me and talked slower भन्नु भन्यो भने okay, so that means you care about the issue, right? You don't care just about the conflict. So त्यो कुरा हुन्छ. That's just an example. There's a lot of things that can go into this हैन, तर नेगेटिभ थिङ्सलाई पनि पोजिटिभ वेमा कसरी एक्सप्रेस गर्ने भन्ने कुराको एक्जाम्पल हो यो. Now, constructive feedback. This is extremely important. You can't be कुनै कुरा गर्दाखेरि you are not an expert in anything and everything हैन. So केही न केही गर्दाखेरि आफ्नो केही न केही कमी त भएकै हुन सक्छ. Mostly हुन्छ नि, we're humans, we make mistakes. So we have to be open to receiving feedback from others हैन. Constructive feedback, if they're saying it for our own good, हाम्रै राम्रोको लागि उनीहरूले भनिरहेको छ भने त्यसलाई पोजिटिभली लिन पनि सक्नुपर्छ, त्यसको लागि ओपन हुनुपर्छ. Now sometimes कुनै कुरालाई कम्युनिकेट गर्दाखेरि क्लियरली नो भन्नुपर्ने हुन्छ. तर be polite when you say that. You have to say it, learn to say no, say it politely, तर say it affirmatively, okay? Say it firmly. होइन भने जस्तो गर्यो भने या त क्लियरली भन्न सकेन भने, क्लियरली किन भनेर बुझाउन पनि सकेन भने, all of that part त्यो गर्न सकेन भने फर्म हुँदैन क्या. हाम्रो जुन नो भन्ने टर्म हुन्छ त्यो फर्म हुँदैन. द्याट नो मिन्स यु नट अग्रिङ टु समथिङ टुवर्ड्स समथिङ. अरू कसैले भनेको कुरालाई होइन म यो गर्दिनँ भन्नुपर्ने हुन्छ कहिलेकाहीँ, राइट? प्रोफेसनल सेटिङमा कति हुन्छ त्यस्तो. सो you have to be able to say it politely. त्यो rude भएर त कहिले पनि बोल्नु हुँदैन. Rude भएर बोल्यो भने again what that does is it creates conflict. तर be firm, be affirmative, be assertive towards your own no, okay? Know the reasons why you're saying no, be polite, but say it in a way that they understand, right? Say it in a way that they understand. Now asserting yourself. Again, यहाँ मैले भनिहालेँ, no भन्नु पर्यो या त yes भन्नु पर्यो भने पनि. Assert yourself भनेको चाहिँ आफ्नो निड्सलाई क्लियरली एक्सप्रेस गर्न आफ्नो निड्स, फिलिङ्स, ओपिनियन्सलाई क्लियरली स्टेट गर्न सक्ने कुरा हो asserting yourself भनेको. Okay, so recognizing your own feelings वाला पार्ट छ, right? But then recognizing it itself is not enough. किनभने कहिलेकाहीँ त्यो एक्सप्रेस पनि गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ. But then when you're doing that, don't disregard other people's feelings about the same thing. Okay, just be aware of your feelings, but also be aware of their feelings. But you can mostly only speak for yourself, right? उनीहरूको फिलिङ्स रेकग्नाइज गरेर त्यही अनुसारले आफ्नो एन्सर्स जुन हुन्छ, आफ्नो निड्स र ओपिनियन्स जुन हुन्छ त्यसलाई फ्रेम गर्न सक्नु पनि पर्छ. ओके, सो द्याट्स अबाउट बिङ assertive, asserting yourself as well as recognizing others' feelings. Now, avoid judging वाला कुरा त एकदमै बेसिक कुरा हो. Avoid judging, avoid reacting, हैन? मान्छेहरूले केही भनिरहेको छ भने sometimes we only know one side of the story, right? एक साइड मात्र थाहा हुन्छ हामीलाई. So, if we avoid judging, then that means कि हाम्रो whatever our mindset is अलिकति open छ भन्ने कुरा आउँछ, हैन? Judge गर्न avoid गर्यो भने. And then praising people often will also help you gain that confidence, and it's also about developing a better relationship with them, right? So judge नगरेर मान्छेलाई better praise गर्न सक्यो, appreciate गर्न सक्यो, उनीहरूको एफर्टलाई appreciate गर्न सक्यो भने के हुन्छ भने you build a better relationship, and you also are a better communicator at the end of the day, since that's what we're talking about. Now the don'ts of effective communication. Last almost towards the end of it, I know. So the don'ts of effective communication भनेको चाहिँ के हो भने, we talked about this अलिकति अगाडि, but this is very important. So don't interrupt somebody when they're telling you something or when they're doing something. Don't overcomplicate your message. Keep it concise, keep it precise. जे कुरा हो त्यही भनौँ, so that repetitions ले गर्दा मान्छे confuse पनि हुँदैन. Or हुन्छ नि सानो कुरालाई making a mountain out of a molehill भन्छ नि, सानो conflict हुन्छ तर त्यसलाई बढाउँदा lot of us are overthinkers, हैन? So त्यसलाई बढाउँदा कत्रो ठुलो कुरा भइसक्यो हुन्छ तर जब कि त्यो सानो एउटा effortले त्यो simplify गर्न सक्ने कुरा हुन्छ, right? So don't overcomplicate your things. All of these might seem to go over your head right now, हैन? If you've been involved in professional setting or communication कुरामा उ छ भने you might know, but even if you don't know, don't worry, because all of these things are things you'll learn with experience, हैन? बिस्तारै. Now don't be very अर्को कुरा के हो भने don't be very defensive. Okay, defensive धेरै भयो भने I only care about myself and whatever I'm explaining वाला message जान्छ के मान्छेलाई. So be open and don't be very defensive towards your own ideas, okay? So that you're able to learn, so that you're able to grow. Now, कसैलाई constructive feedback दिनु छ भने we need to give it to them. तर criticize कहिले पनि, especially publicly, never criticize someone. Give them feedback, tell them कि okay यो गर्यो भने better हुन्थ्यो होला भनेर. तर judgmental भएर सानो कुरामा एकदम point गरेर publicly criticize गर्यो भने त्यसले एक त relationship बिगार्छ, plus effective communicator भइदैन के publicly criticize गर्यो भने, because you're not thinking of the consequences, you're not aware of how that person might feel. So publicly criticize कहिले पनि गर्नु भएन. Now, shout or talk too fast. If you shout, if you scream, if you talk too loudly whenever you're communicating, then again that's not a very professional thing to do, and that's not a very nice thing to do either, right? अनि एकदम छिटो बोल्यो भने त कसैले बुझ्दै बुझ्दैन. So try to be slow, not so slow that it's boring, तर don't talk too fast. Okay? Be aware of the pace of your speech, be aware of the speed of in which you're relaying your message, right? So talk slowly, don't shout, and then don't, again अघि नै पनि कुरा भइहाल्यो, don't react too soon. कुनै कुरालाई सोचेर एकछिन, if somebody says something, एकछिन सोचेर त्यसलाई प्रोसेस गरेर अनि मात्र रियाक्ट गरौँ, हैन? Now give more, if you give more importance to mobiles, it's like fubbing भन्छ के अरे, हैन? So if you give more importance to mobiles or electronic devices, then के हुन्छ भने the other person will feel, the person that's communicating with you will feel like you don't have their interest, like they don't have your interest. Okay, so if you're communicating, if you are looking to become an effective communicator, or सानो कुरामा पनि, because effective communication can help resolve a lot of issues भन्ने कुरा पनि भयो, हैन? So don't give more importance to mobiles or electronic devices. Full आफ्नो 100% attention चाहिँ जे communication भइरहेछ त्यसमै लगायो भने चाहिँ it makes you, again, त्यसमा फेरि active listening and all को कुरा आउँछ, हैन? So you become an active listener, you're able to process, analyze better, and then you're able to also communicate better. So mobile electronic device like चाहिँ सकेसम्म एकदम important कुराहरु चाहिँ side मै राखेको ठिक, basically, हैन? So these are the don'ts of effective communication. And I think with that, I have come to the end of effective communication wala session. Now, just so that I can see, I know, if you guys have been actively listening to me or not. Now, what we will do is we will repeat Agiko activity, but with something new. Okay, so Agiko activity ma hamle pass the mic garem, हैन? Same thing हामी अहिले गर्छौं, तर what we will do is I'll pick somebody and you have to tell me कि सबैभन्दा important र सबैभन्दा नयाँ कुरा when it comes to effective communication. Just one sentence. एउटा sentence मा explain गर्दा हुन्छ to me, हैन? One new thing you learned that you think is very important from this whole presentation. So I can give you 30 seconds to think about it. हैन? अघि जस्तो फ्याट भन्न अलिकति गाह्रो पनि हुन सक्छ, since there was a lot of information here that went in, हैन? So त्यसको लागि what I will do is म 30 seconds को timer राख्छु, हैन? And then I'll pick somebody, and then again we'll go into सकेसम्म अघि नै those of you that spoke अघि नै, just let's be mindful कि त्यही मान्छे repeat चाहिँ नहोस्, हैन? So that everybody, most of us, get a chance to speak. म पनि I'll try, if I remember, है, अब सबै सम्झिन त गाह्रै हुन्छ सबैलाई, हैन? But if I remember, I'll try and choose somebody that hasn't spoken, and you guys also try and do the same thing, right? So what I will do is matake timer raksu 30 seconds go, think about it, and then I will pick somebody, right? Your time starts now. Okay, so time up, है त? मैले एकजना pick गरिहालेँ है. So I choose Pratima Chapagai. Hi Pratima, are you here?
Hello.
Hi.
Effective communication मैले चाहिँ के बुझेको भन्दा अब अरू बोल्दाखेरि हैन बिचमा नबोल्ने अनि त्यसपछि त्यो इन्टरप्ट नगर्ने एउटा चीज.
Very important point. Okay, Pratima, thank you. You can choose one other person. एकजना जो भए पनि just try and be अघि नबोलिसकेको मान्छे भयो भने चाहिँ better हुन्छ होला है. Just one person.
Okay, I will choose Vijay Chaudhary.
Okay. Hi Vijay. Hi Vijay. I can see that your mic is on, तर आवाज आइरहेको छैन.
हेलो मेरो आवाज आइरह?
अहिले चाहिँ आयो.
हेलो.
हेलो हजुर.
हजुर दिदी नमस्ते.
नमस्ते.
के हुन्छ रे तपाईको आवाज चाहिँ मलाई लास्ट टाइम लाग्यो हैन. तपाईले कस्तो मजाले प्रेजेन्ट गर्नुभयो.
थ्यांक यू.
अनि इफेक्टिभ कम्युनिकेसनको लागि चाहिँ के राम्रो हुन्छ होला भनेदेखि चाहिँ एकदम क्लियर हुने, धेरै जपति कुराहरु एड नगर्ने, स्ट्रेट भनिदिहाल्ने भन्ने भएको एउटा पोइन्ट चाहिँ.
Okay. That's enough, Vijay. अब एकजना, thank you for the answer. अब एकजनालाई पिक गर्दा हुन्छ ल. To go next.
जनालाई मेरोमा रोजन श्रेष्ठ हुनुहुन्छ.
Okay.
हेलो.
हेलो.
हजुर आवाज आइरहेछ मेरो?
हजुर आइरहेछ.
मैले चाहिँ के बुझ्यो भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ अब आफूभन्दा अगाडि कम्युनिकेट गर्ने मान्छेसँग चाहिँ उनले जुन चाहिँ ल्याङ्ग्वेज राम्रोसँग बुझ्छ त्यही ल्याङ्ग्वेजमा चाहिँ हामीले कम्युनिकेट गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ राम्रो हुन्छ होला.
Yes, very good answer, Rosen. Okay, so thank you. अर्को एकजना, can you choose to go next?
Saman Kesi.
Okay. Saman, I think, right? Wrong pronunciation, please, sorry. हजुर, hi.
हजुर. इफेक्टिभ कम्युनिकेसनको अलि इम्पोर्टेन्ट पार्ट भनेको चाहिँ नेगेटिभ थट्सहरु पनि पोजिटिभ वेमा एक्सप्रेस गर्ने अनि त्यो जार्गन्सहरु चाहिँ अलि युज नगर्ने.
Okay. Thank you. अब नेक्स्ट एकजना पनि एक दुई जनाको सुनौं न त है अझै. So can you choose somebody? Anyone?
आकाश श्रेष्ठ.
फर्स्टमै हुनुहुन्छ आकाश श्रेष्ठ.
हेलो एभ्रीवान.
हेलो हाई.
हेलो. म चाहिँ एक्चुअली यो लास्टको एन्ड अफ द सेसनमा मात्रै आइपुगेको थिएँ. लास्टको अलमोस्ट दुईटा स्लाइड मात्रै बाँकी थियो हजुरको.
हजुर.
सो दुईटा स्लाइड भए पनि म चाहिँ धेरै क्युरियस थिएँ यो चाहिँ बिहानदेखि नै लिन, तर आई अलमोस्ट लस्ट इट. अनि लास्ट टाइम आएर पनि तर मैले सिकेको कुरा यो इफेक्टिभ कम्युनिकेसनमा हजुरबाट सिकेको भनेको चाहिँ लाइक एक्टिभ लाइक कम्युनिकेसन मात्रै होइन रहेछ, एक्टिभ लिसनर पनि रहेछ क्या एज बेस्ट पार्ट. अनि बिचमा म चाहिँ कहिलेकाहीँ साथीहरूले लाइक प्रेजेन्टेसनहरू दिँदाखेरि बिचमा उनीहरूलाई डिस्ट्र्याक्ट गर्ने अनि यो तेरो मिलेन है भनिदिइहाल्ने गर्ने गर्थेँ क्या. अनि गर्नु हुँदैन रहेछ भन्ने मैले एट द एन्डमा आएर भए पनि यो इफेक्टिभ कम्युनिकेसनमा सिकेँ.
ओके, थ्याङ्क यू. Thank you for joining and thank you for the answer, Akash. Okay, so last एकजनाको सुनौँ है त हामी. Just one person, Akash, एकजना जसलाई भए पनि चुज गरिदिनु भयो भने हाम्रो सेसन ठ्याक्कै सकिने टाइम हुन्छ. अब
प्रिया तामाङ मेबी.
ओके. Priya, are you here? सुनिरहेछ? Priya Tamang. Okay, I think there might be केही न केही प्रब्लम हुन सक्छ. अर्को एकजना मै हेर्दिउ त, मैले भने है त अब लास्ट एकजना. सो अर्निमा छेत्री. Last but not the least, if you can hear me, please unmute Arnima. Okay, पनि भएन जस्तो छ. अरु को छ त? अरूको छ भने just one. Prasan, I'm not sure, so sorry, wrong pronounce gare भने. But are you here? Prasan or Prasan Shrestha? Okay. Okay, my microphone is not working, so I'm writing. And what I learned is having a strong eye contact and knowing the audience. Okay, perfect. Very good answer. So all of you have picked very important points from the entire presentation. Right? Ekdam सानो कुराले effective communicator बनाउँछ. It's paying attention to the details. It's paying attention to the very small things. एकदम सानो कुरा हो जस्तो लाग्ला तर यही कुराहरूले एकदमै ठुलो impact पार्छ. And that's basically it. That's basically just me trying to explain practically कि effective communication भनेको के हो र कसरी हुन्छ भनेर. And if anybody here has any questions, I'm open to it now. होइन भने okay. Hi Manish, you've raised a hand.
Excuse me. So I read this article, and there was if you are gonna have a very effective communication, the person speaking or the person hearing the communication must it will, if the person tries to copy the gestures or the body language, it is tend that they attract the people attention. So how true is that? How much true is that? And how practical is that?
So you mean the use of gestures when it comes to communication, right?
Like if I'm speaking to you, and if you copy, if you unconsciously or subconsciously copy my gestures or my body languages, I tend to give you more attention, like according to psychology. So like how true is that? How is this true, or like how practical is that? That's my question.
Okay, so you भनेको चाहिँ this is again हुन्छ नि त्यो smaller details मै पर्छ यो पनि भनेको हैन. But then I definitely think it is subjective. सबैमा यस्तो हुन्छ, सबैमा त्यही नै हुन्छ भन्ने, त्यही नै लागु हुन्छ भन्ने चाहिँ नहुन सक्छ हैन. Because sometimes if you're copying somebody's gestures, then it might also have the opposite effect. Okay, it might seem that you're mocking them. जस्तो पनि हुन सक्छ हैन. तर sometimes it may, okay, so this person is doing this, is हुन्छ नि उसको gestures, उसको posture मसँग similar छ भन्ने भयो भने त्यो attention त्यो हुन्छ नि त्यो attentionलाई grab गर्न सक्ने कुरा पनि true हुन सक्छ. So I think this depends. एकदम definitive exhaustive answer म दिन सक्दिन हैन, because obviously मैले मेरो साइडबाट communication गर्ने हो, मसँग त्यस्तो नभएको हुन सक्छ तर अरु कोहीसँग भएको हुन सक्छ हैन. Obviously I'm not a psychologist, so psychologically के हुन्छ भनेर त मैले भन्न सक्दिन, तर it might be true, but it depends. That's what I'll say.
Thank you very much.
Hi. Okay, so anybody else? Priyanka. Hi, Priyanka.
Hi, good evening again.
Good evening.
I don't want to ask questions, but I just want to say what I learned from this workshop.
Okay, please.
Firstly, I loved how you interpreted about the effective communication and various forms of it. And from this, I've learned that effective communication is so important when it comes to people who have special needs, like a mental disability or physical disability. Like express गर्न एकदमै गाह्रो भएन हुन्छ, तिनीहरूलाई कम्युनिकेसन गर्न हैन गाह्रो भइरहन्छ. अनि त्यति बेला यो वर्कसपबाट I understood that non-verbal communication भयो, written or visual communication plays a major important role. Just like अब हामी टडलर्सहरुकै कुरा गर्दा आजकल they learn so much from visual information like rhymesहरु भयो हैन. So yes, thank you very much for this workshop. I learned a lot from it. Thank you.
Thank you, Priyanka. Thank you so much. That means a lot. Plus, you volunteering it against, like, instead of pandapni, like I'd have appreciated it, even if you asked questions. I know there is a volunteer you appreciating and encouraging me means a lot. Thank you, Priyanka. Thank you so much. So, any other questions or anything you want to share? Anything you want to talk about? Yeah, anybody in the audience? Okay, it's Harbani. You can raise your hand or just unmute and speak. Monsoon Pandey or Moon Sun Pandey? Sorry, please tell me how to pronounce your name, Pani.
Hello. Thank you for the session.
Hi.
Hello. मेरो नाम चाहिँ मुनसन हो.
Okay, Moonson. So sorry.
ओके अनि के अरे यस्तो के कस्तो भन्दाखेरि म चाँडो बोल्छु होइन अनि अब चाँडो बोल्छु भने आफूले ल बिस्तारै बोल्नुपर्छ भनेर भने हुन्छ लाइक आफूले रिमाइन्ड गर्यो भने अब बिस्तारै बोल्नु खोज्दा चाहिँ लाइक इन्फर्मेसनहरू मिस गर्छु कि दिमाग हुन्छ नि बिर्सिन थाल्छु होइन कहाँ छु के गफ गरेर हुन्छु है त्यो नि त्यो झन् अनइफेक्टिभ हुँदै जान्छ कि अनि लाइक कसरी म त्यसको वरिपरि कसरी वर्क गरौँ होइन त्यसलाई कसरी लाइक हुन्छ नि मेरो कम्युनिकेसन पनि ठिक्कको अनि लाइक हुन्छ नि आफूले नि हुन्छ नि त्यो थिङ्किङ प्रोसेस पनि मिलाउने के भनौँ न त्यो के अरे फ्लुएन्सी के कसरी बढाउनु
Perfect idea म भन्छु हैन I have done this I have done this personally मैले अरूलाई भनेको पनि छु सेम यही कुरा हैन for somebody that is a very fast speaker हैन definitely what you're saying is true कि छिटो बोल्ने मान्छेले ढिलो बोल्दाखेरि एक त त्यो म ढिलो बोल्नुपर्छ भन्ने कुराले नै कति कुराहरु बिर्साइदिन्छ के हैन सो त्यस्तो हुन्छ what is a perfect solution a very good solution for this is jotting down your ideas before you're able to express them before you're talking about them. So आफ्नो आइडियाजहरु दिमागमा जे छ त्यो like just 2-3 points छ भने लेख्ने के त्यो कपीमा अनि कम्युनिकेट गर्दाखेरि कपीमा लेख्ने एउटा जेमा पनि एउटा डायरीमा लेख्ने हैन अनि कम्युनिकेट गर्दाखेरि that way you don't miss the ideas पनि हैन you don't miss what you're trying to say पनि I know it's not very practical सबै कुरामा यस्तो नहुन सक्छ तर if you make it a habit then त्यसले दिमागमा पनि आफै काम गर्छ के यसरी ओके यो हो भनेर त्यसरी नै बानी लाग्दै जान्छ so if you're able to write हैन if you're able to write in points कि यो कुरा चाहिँ मैले भन्नुपर्ने छ यो कुरा मैले कम्युनिकेट गर्नुपर्ने छ भने चाहिँ त्यसपछि बिस्तारै बोल्दै जाँदाखेरि पनि एक त आफू आत्तिदैन you're referring to your notes right you're referring to your notes on what needs to be said and you're not able and you don't miss out on any ideas I know it's not very easy and very convenient all the time हैन तर starting somewhere and making it a habit definitely works if that answers your question
yeah I think it does thank you so much
okay you're welcome so anyone else any questions someone Casey
मलाई चाहिँ त्यो जार्गनको बारेमा चाहिँ क्वेशन सोध्नु जस्तै यो कुनै टपिकमा त्यो वर्डै युज नगरिकन एक्सप्लेन गर्न मिल्दैन भने चाहिँ कसरी एक्सप्लेन गर्छ
वर्ड युज नगरिकन एक्सप्लेन गर्न मिल्दैन भने वर्ड युज चाहिँ गर्ने तर त्यसलाई एक्सप्लेन पनि गर्ने के so that उनीहरुले अब युज try to avoid it as far as possible भन्ने कुरा हुन्छ तर it's not possible sometimes हैन तर यदि त्यो युज गर्यो भने you need to be mindful कि ओके मैले जार्गन युज चाहिँ गरे यो युज गर्नै पर्ने भएर युज गरे तर उनीहरुले बुझ्छ कि बुझ्दैन यदि बुझ्दैन भने त्यो जार्गनलाई एक्सप्लेन पनि गर्दिनु पर्यो के okay does that make sense
yes ma'am
yes okay so is that it okay so I think त्यति नै हो जस्तो छ with that I come to the end of the session on the presentation on effective communication thank you everyone for listening intently thank you everyone for sharing your thoughts your opinions your ideas and also for the appreciation with that I come to the end of my presentation and that's pretty much it thank you मैले stop गरे ल presentation
Thank you, Miss Aditi Upadhyaya, for effective and interactive workshop. So this session's gonna definitely help me and others in personal and professional life. And for me, after personal experience, your workshop this session's definitely gonna help me in my board exam as well. Kina bhanda subject matter pani ho, and so thank you. And so, ma'am, we have few other questions. Who can answer it? I will just read it out.
Okay, yes, please.
How you started your journey as a woman in the field of press?
In the field of press?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, personal question आएछ हैन so how did I start भन्दा चाहिँ I've always been somebody who's extremely interested in writing हैन ekdamai passionate about writing from the very start, haina. Ani what I wanted to, even though I was more development studies padeko manche ho, I'm a development studies graduate, haina, so that's not exactly press त होइन नि त, त्यो भनेको mass communication त होइन, तर मेरो अरू इन्ट्रेस्टहरू थियो के, जस्तै about me even like presenting and talking, हुन्छ नि, public speaking, यो सबै emceeing, all of this is also a very important part of me जस्तो लाग्छ क्या मलाई personally, होइन. अनि writing र अनि when यो नेपाल प्रेसमा काम गर्छु म, होइन. अनि नेपाल प्रेसमा फर्स्टमा जब को डिस्क्रिप्सनमा चाहिँ के थियो भने, it was mostly about translating and editing articles के. So म राइटिङमा इन्ट्रेस्टेड पनि हो, अनि एडिटिङमा त अब what happened is 4 years ब्याचलर्सको जर्नीभरि सबैको, मेरो साथीहरू सबैको असाइनमेन्ट्सहरू एडिट गरिदिने लास्टमा हुन्छ नि, ऊ गरिदिने मान्छे म हुन्थेँ कि. एन्ड देन आई अल्सो लभड हुन्छ नि ट्रान्सलेसनवाला काम, त्यो पनि मैले कतिवटा गरेँ. सो आई सेड I'll apply भनेर आई एप्लाइड. I got the job, होइन. अनि I got the job, अनि त्यसमा म अरू केमा पनि इन्भल्भ भयो भने हुन्छ नि मल्टिमिडिया कन्टेन्टहरूमा त्यस्तो उहरूमा पनि इन्भल्भ भयो कि. सो बेसिकली कम्युनिकेसनवाला पार्ट चाहिँ लाइक पहिलेदेखि पिपल युज टु टेल मी कि लाइक हुन्छ नि नेचुरली पनि हुन्छ नि त, कति कुराहरू त एक्सपिरियन्सले मात्रै सिकाएको पनि हुँदैन, तर नेचुरली पनि ओके युआर अ गुड कम्युनिकेटर है, इफ यु वर्क अन इट देन इट क्यान बिकम बेटर भनेर धेरै मलाई इन्करेज पनि गर्यो. अनि सो कम्युनिकेसनवालै सेक्टरमा अब न्युज भनेको त it's a kind of communication नि त, होइन. मास कम्युनिकेसनमा आउँछ, केमा आउँछ, बट देन न्युजमा एन्ड देन त्यसमा इन्ट्रेस्ट लाग्यो कि मलाई. ओके सो म कम्युनिकेसनमा पनि प्लस मल्टिमिडिया कन्टेन्ट पनि बनाउन पाइन्छ भन्ने भएर एन्ड देन आई जोइन. सो द्याट्स हाउ आई स्टार्टेड माई जर्नी बेसिकली. And then it's been a wild journey after that, but it's taught me a lot. I think that answers the question, I know.
So we have another question. So I will just read it. Where do I start from if I want to improve my communication in general? What recommendation would you give regarding the ways of conversing with clients and teams?
Wow. Okay. So I think the entire presentation was an answer to this question. I know. As I go, all of it. Firstly, if you're talking about where to start, I will definitely recommend active listening, because active listening is the most important part. कम्युनिकेसनमा मान्छेले बोल्ने कसरी भन्ने कुरालाई इम्पोर्टेन्स दिन्छ, तर आई बिलिभ इट्स द एक्ज्याक्ट अपोजिट, होइन. एक्टिभली लिसन गर्न सकेन केही कुरालाई, कुनै पनि कुरालाई भने communicate गर्न झन् गाह्रो हुन्छ. And within a team, especially you're talking about clients, right? You're talking about clients and conversing with them. Then conversation मा त especially listening त झन् एकदम extremely important हुन्छ. So the first thing you need to work on, I don't know how much of an active listener you are, यताउता त्यो त मलाई थाहा छैन, तर first skill you need to work on is active listening. अब त्यसपछि भनेको all of the things, अब I can forward you this presentation if you want, होइन. अब entirely सबै कुरा त म explain गर्न सक्दिनँ. This whole session was about that. Again, त म अब छोटो टाइम पनि धेरै छैन, होइन, प्लस रिपिट हुन्छ कति कुराहरू, तर it's about the little things, के, listening actively and all of that. Just give me 1 second. ल, मेरो ल्यापटपको चार्ज ट्याक्क सकिन आँट्यो, म चार्ज गरिहाल्छु. Okay. Hi. So, first is active listening. And then when you're speaking clearly, being confident, using not a very loud screaming wala voice, but being clear and being loud, that's important. Conversations, man, say. Basically, and there's a lot of other things that our session ma bhayahale त्यो कुराहरु.
Thank you, ma'am. So now to give token of appreciation to our wonderful speaker, Miss Aditi Upadhyaya, I want to call Mr. Hukum Gosain.
Hello, ma'am.
Hello, hi.
It was wonderful. हजुर म्याम, मेरो अलिकति यो भिडियो चाहिँ क्यामेरा एक्सेस गर्न पाइरहेको छैन, त्यसैले मेरो हजुर म्याम मैले पर्सनल्ली कति धेरै ठाउँहरूमा चाहिँ लाइक मैले आफ्नै आइडियाजहरू एक्सप्लेन गर्दाखेरि अगाडिको मान्छेहरूले नबुझिरहेकै पाइरहेको हुन्छ क्या सो इट वाज अ वन्डरफुल सेसन इन्डिड है एन्ड थ्याङ्क यू सो मच एन्ड थ्याङ्क यू अल पार्टिसिपेन्ट होइन म्याम सो इन कोलाबोरेसन विथ आवर रोटरेक्ट क्लब अफ पशुपति एन्ड वी क्रिएटर्स कमिटी वी हेभ अ लिटल letter of appreciation virtually. I would like to provide this to you, no, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much.
Ma'am, so thank you, ma'am, for this wonderful session, and thank you all participants for this wonderful session. And this was okay, ma'am. If you want to take photo, you can, ma'am.
Okay, I definitely will. Can you also share this file with me?
Azur, ma'am. We will address this certificate at your address in collaboration with our collaborator. And
okay, so can I suggest something? Your certificate. Mero spelling alikati mistake boy. Okay.
Oh, so okay, ma'am.
Is that a way that can be changed?
Huncha ma'am, huncha sure ma'am. We have already changed it ma'am हैन अनि हाम्रो प्रेजेन्टेसन स्लाइड्स मा चाहिँ इमेज चेन्ज गर्न मात्र बाँकी छ के सो बेसिकली मैले अहिले प्रेजेन्ट गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ त्यो देखियो म्याम हामीले अलरेडी चेन्ज गरिसकेका छौं म्याम
भइहाल्यो त्यसो भए लेट मी जस्ट टेक अ पिक्चर ल
हुन्छ म्याम
Okay, done. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, everyone, for being a wonderful listener. We have learned a lot. If you guys are interested in any things like this, if future ma यस्तै इभेन्टहरु अरु चाहियो भने नि प्लिज रिच आउट टु अस हाम्रो पोर्टल सधैँ ओपन छ वी हैव आवर वेबसाइट कम्युनिटीको हाम्रो आफ्नै वेबसाइट छ त्यहाँदेखि यु क्यान रिच टु अस एन्ड इफ you guys want to like organize such event and यस्तै इभेन्ट अरु केही गर्नु पर्यो भनेपछि नि you can reach out to us creators community यो इभेन्ट नि हाम्रो creators community को इभेन्ट म्यानेजमेन्ट गाइड को थ्रुबाट अर्गनाइज गर्यौं हामीले it was a wonderful session यस्तै guys along with creators community here at Herald we have AI learners who basically who are enthusiastic learner in AI production and all about AI, right? It's a industry 4 revolution, and then us creators, and there is game dev, and we have UI visual community as well. So guys, if you have anything like this, you can fill our ask for proposal, it's hosted in our website creators.heraldcollege.edu.np. There is a link, and thank you guys for being a wonderful host, and thank you ma'am once again.
Thank you for having me. Please, I'm honored that you guys approached me for this. So if there's any way I can contribute more, then always ready. So please, I think you guys have my email address. I'm dropping it here so that if you have any questions or if you want to collaborate or anything in the future, then just send me an email. Don't hesitate. Okay
ma'am. We will be having this event every week, ma'am. We will contact you, ma'am.
Okay. Means a lot.
Thank you ma'am. Thank you all.
Before हामीले चाहिँ यो एन्ड गर्नुभन्दा अगाडि चाहिँ आई रिक्वेस्ट एभ्रीवन जसले चाहिँ मिल्छ भिडियो एकचोटि अन गरिदिनु न ल स्क्रिनशटको र फोटोहरुको प्रपोजेसको लागि अनि राम्रो पोज दिउँ है गाइज
Sure.
Please don't leave the meeting, guys. Take a photo लिने बेलामा. Wow, it's nice to see so many videos finally.
Let me change this layout.
ल अब चाहिँ स्क्रिनशट चाहिँ लिइसके है मैले
Well, thank you guys, thank you all, and officially I would like to conclude this session today. So thank you guys, see you. Hope to see you on another event. Bye bye.
साँच्ची आई हेभ समथिङ है। सो हाम्रो रोटरी क्लबमा चाहिँ के हुन्छ भने यस्तो मिटिङ वा इभेन्टहरू सकेपछि फेलोसिप इभेन्ट हुन्छ। सो एभ्रिबडी जस्ट यतिकै कुरा गर्ने यताउता हुन्छ नि के अरे कुराहरू गर्ने यताउता मोज मस्तीको कुराहरू हुन्छ। सो इफ कोही इन्ट्रेस्टेड हुनुहुन्छ भने र टाइम छ भने प्लिज बसिदिनु होला। केही हामी यतिकै यतिकै लखन गरेर बस्छौँ एकछिनसम्म चाहिँ।
Okay, guys, I say need to leave, right? So more oily guy. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for the participation and also to the organizing committee for having me. I look forward to collaborating with you all in the future again. And with that, I'm signing off, right? Thank you and bye bye. Have a great day.
For this wonderful session.
Thank you, Aditi.
Thank you guys, thank you everyone. L म गएँ ल अहिले अलिकति हतारमा छु। Bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye, ma'am.
Bye.
Oh, कस्तो मोज मस्तीको कुरा all this.
मोज मस्ती त भयो नि, बट आई एम आउट अफ आइडियाज। कोही आइडिया निकाल्न सक्नुहुन्छ भने प्लिज है।